Good evening, pubbers. Welcome to another Sunday Pub, the 41st Sunday Pub, apparently. If you look closely in the thumbnails, I've got a little number in there, and I update that every time I make a new thumbnail. Just for myself to have any idea how many of these we've done. But apparently it's 41. I hope everyone's had a good week. I'm sorry I started a little bit late, but only a little bit. Nothing like Alan kind of late. But I ordered food, and it took a lot longer than I expected for it to arrive, and arrived just before the thing started. We were meant to go live. So we might do a reading sprint really soon so I can eat my dinner. Look who it is.
Let me in!
It's Evie. How you doing?
Matt is over here blaming his food for a reading sprint really soon. It was really just me demanding reading sprints. So.
Also, I'm always happy to do a reading sprint to make you happy, and especially since I am reading City of Last Chances, and I'm about 100 pages in, and I am really loving it.
Nice.
It's really good. I've already talked to Adrian about running a role-playing game in Ilmar.
Nice.
Yeah. And he was like, oh my God, I would love to see a role-playing game running in Ilmar. So, yeah. Nice. And look who it also is. Breton.
I know. It's shocking. It's me. It's little old me. Doing all right, man. I'm just it's been kind of a tough week so far, but you know what? I'm still kicking it. I'm still alive, so I'm saying I'm doing pretty good.
It always could be worse if you're still alive.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now, Evie?
I just started Jingo.
Oh, cool.
So,
I've got that over in my stack. I think book four in City Watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm already loving
Feet of Clay, and then that one, right?
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to Kim, because I originally was supposed to read Nation this month because it's Alan's book club pick or whatever that we communally voted on as a democracy. And I'm like, this is just not scratching that itch. I need some cathartic rage. And he's like, Jinko is actually a really good option for cathartic rage. And it's Pratchett, so it's still, for me, fun. So
guess who is also joining us? I think for the first time on screen in the Sunday Pub. It's Grumpy Smurf.
Oh,
I am not grumpy today.
Oh, are you feeling okay?
We're getting the whole Alan gang here today.
Exactly. The Alan overlap is probably going to eventually lead to a holy war or something.
We are doing our bit so that people won't forget Alan, to remind him.
It's true. It's the Anita and I are a 2-man proselytizing group. There you go.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, nobody should forget Alan. Alan's unforgettable, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't think it's possible.
I don't think anyone's going to forget Alan. Once you've seen one of his videos, you don't forget Alan.
He's especially a ham, as John from Talking Story might say.
He's beyond being a ham. He is more than being a ham. John from Talking Story is a ham, for sure. But Alan is so much more. What are you reading, Anita?
I have one chapter left in Colors in the Steel. This
Okay.
is K.J. Parker's Fencer Trilogy first book.
Yeah.
And then after this, you'll not be surprised. Finally,
You're
I'm
finishing.
I'm
Oh!
going
Finally.
to read Lords of Uncreation and finish this trilogy.
Finally.
Yes.
That
So
is
all
such a
your-
good book.
Should be.
Yeah. I think I'm so bad at ranking things, but I think in that series, I would probably rank the second book highest,
Same.
and the
Okay.
third book second, and the first book last.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are going to, maybe, anyway. See, I read first book in January of this year and I loved it. I loved everything about it, world building, characters, and that friendship and all.
Yeah.
But
It's amazing.
second book, I do have some issues. I ranted about it to Evie actually. So I am hoping this will become again my favorite of this trilogy. Hoping, fingers crossed for that. I hope my issues will not carry on from second book.
Okay. What were your issues?
Those are spoilery. Maybe we can talk about
Oh
them
yeah.
later.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
To summarize, hopefully in a not spoilery way, and Anita, please correct me if I'm mistaken and misrepresenting anything. It was the not even miscommunication. It was just the lack of communication, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Between characters about what was going on, and yeah, true.
and the convenient timing of like, oh, new information is going to be revealed. I'm just gonna interrupt and
Not
like,
right
you know,
now. Yeah.
They get distracted. Okay, let's think about it later. Okay, let's deal with it later. Move on from that. Oh my god, talk to yourselves. I was like screaming.
Yeah.
Also, see, to be fair, I wasn't in the right mood when I was reading that. Basically, Evie was and Pete were like holding me hostage to finish that book. I was slumpy. So maybe because of that, but not necessarily that's the only reason.
Does
I'm
that mean
not.
I can call you Slumpy Smurf from now on?
That is true, but I want to get out of that. So no, I don't want that name to
slowly
stick.
crawling out of that.
Yeah.
All right.
What was it? What it wasn't Cicero. Well, oh God, what was the book? No, Claudius.
Claudius the God. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Oh my God. It's the same thing. Claudius, I loved it. It's not as good as Cicero trilogy in terms of writing, but the drama, it's like Game of Thrones level drama. Oh, look, okay. Everyone, next hair, kill him, poison. Next hair, kill him, poison. So it was very interesting, thrilling, dramatic. I loved it. Claudius, the entire story of how those Claudius name is Claudius, but the story is about the three emperors who ruled before Claudius, actually, how we came to the point where Claudius became emperor. But Claudius the God, that deals with actually Claudius' rule. Oh my God. It was so boring. I wanted to cry actually. And I can't even stop it because there is history in it, which I was interested in, but only that part is good actually. Britain's what is that, war on Britain, Claudius war on Britain, that part is all good actually, but other than that there is so much stuff about religion. It wasn't talked about directly, but at the same time Jesus Christ was at the
Right.
same time actually after immediately after AD, where people are still looking for that. There was a prophecy, and they were all looking for this new guy. I mean, who is God? Sorry. And there are theories about who could be the God and all that. There is so much stuff.
Right.
There is so
Okay.
much exposition. I got so bored.
Sounds great. And that's what knocked you into a bit of a slump.
Yes, not bit of a slump. It's a huge slump. I'm still recovering
Lasted
from
the
that.
entire year.
Oh,
Yeah, it
wow,
lasted
okay.
the entire year.
I can recommend. I mean, like my slump cure for myself, first of all, is forgiving myself for not reading and just not worrying about it. And secondly, short stories. I have like a meter of short stories now, collections and anthologies and all sorts of different short story stuff. And I'm like, I'm just not going to read for a few days and it's okay. And then I'll pick up one short story and read it one night. And then, I'm not going to read for a couple of days. It's okay. That's fine. And then when I feel like reading, I'll just read another short story or two. And that sort of works for me. It sort of eases me back into being excited about reading. Luckily, I had this. I had this because I read Legend by David Gemmell, and I was seriously lukewarm on it.
I think you're the first person I've heard that's
exactly.
Like, not
last year, whoever read it, everyone loved it.
It's not true. A number of people on the fireside, I think Colton and a couple of other people piped up when I said something about it, and they were like, I read it and I wasn't crazy about it either. It's not bad, but it's got.
Do you think
it's got the most thing? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's got the most insta-love of insta-loves that I've ever seen. It's literally 2 pages where a man and a woman run into each other, and she's very grumpy and brusque and rude, and 2 pages later they're wildly in love. And that
sounds like a match made in heaven to me.
It's a central part of the plot as well. And I don't know. There were just a number of things. The characters are kind of 2-dimensional, and there's definitely some good bits. But I got to like 3/4, and I was like, "Am I going to DNF this? No, I'm not going to DNF it. I'm gonna push through because it's not pissing me off or anything, but it's just not exciting me. That feeling where you're like, I want to sit down and read, but I'm not sure I want to sit down and read when I'm reading. And what got me through it was I was like, I'm reading this next. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read Legend fast because I want to get to this. And so far, I'm 100 pages in, and I am super loving it. It's really, really good.
So many foxes, so many rogues, so many jimmies too. It's ridiculous.
It's true. Speaking of which, I've completely been ignoring the comments.
There's Capricious Fox. I don't know if they're the same person.
Peter is here. Hi, Peter. Osa is here. Hi, Osa. Colton, Napsa. Evie has been let in. I totally, because I was
regrettably.
I was just totally confused because my food came like right before I was meant to go live. I took a bite of a burger and then clicked the button. Daniel's here. Sam's here. Sam is part of the reason that I'm reading City of Lost Chances, because he sent me the next book, House of Open Wounds, and I was like, I've got 2 of them now. I just have to start it.
Well, no, Rogue, I don't. I don't have a problem. There's just there's 2 rogues, Sometimes it's
nothing like Alan kind of late. Correct.
Well, no, I was about to say, you better be careful throwing shade at Alan. He might declare a holy war on you.
Yeah, I can
won't get caught in the middle of that.
Good evening, Jerome. Good evening, Thornall. Peter has 15 pages left of Eye of the World. I'm sorry.
Rogue Fox.
I DNF'd Eye of the World twice at about 200 pages. I
thought you haven't read Wheel of Time, Matt.
Do you count reading Wheel of Time as DNFing the first book after 200 pages?
Well,
I mean, yeah.
Well, you're always talking about you've never really been interested in reading it. So I'm sorry, I was a little thrown off there.
That's why I'm uninterested in reading it, because the writing was so bad and so ripped off Tolkien. And I know it gets better, but it's actually the Wheel of Time fans, the wheelies, that put me off, because they're like, oh my God, it's so good. You just have to get to book 4. Then it's amazing. Up to book 7, where it then gets really, really slow for 5 books or whatever, And I'm like, you're not exciting me.
I'm going to surprise everyone by defending Wheel of Time here, because
oh my God.
last year I ranted about Wheel of Time for 5 books. Actually, I stopped after book 5 and I ranted for every book. Every book I have the same complaint actually about, oh my God, about that female characters, what happens during film. Of course, it has his great moments as well.
Wait a sec, just quickly. Nerdy Kathy has made it. She's in Australia, which time zones makes it difficult, but she's actually here. Hi, Kath. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
But
Jesus Christ.
having given it almost 1.5 year break after book 5, I kind of miss those characters. I'm very curious about the world. I want to get back to it. Even now, I remember all those bad parts, but I'm very curious. I want to get back to the world and the characters. I want to know what happened to those characters. That is, I'm very interested. I'm surprised myself. I keep thinking about Wheel of Time these days.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that there is more to it, obviously, than the first 200 pages of the first book.
He definitely created that interest in that magic, especially the way he weaved the story around. Who are those? Oh my god, I don't even remember the terms. That Dark Lord and 13, whoever they are, bad guys. Oh my.
I DNF'd Eye of the World 100 pages in, not even 100 pages in, so I have no idea.
Wow, Evie beat me. I'm impressed.
I also
No
haven't
way.
read Lord of the Rings, so well, I read Fellowship of the Ring, but I haven't read the entire thing, so.
I just I noticed Jimmy Nuts in the chat, and he has joined Sunday Pub once, but he doesn't hang out on the fireside, so he doesn't have the join link. So I wrote him and I said, "Hey, would you like to join the Sunday Pub this week?" And he wrote back and said, "I am on a golf cart."
Join from the golf cart, Jimmy.
Is golf so boring that you are in the chat here?
Have you ever seen golf, Anita?
I was going to say golf is boring. That's the definition.
Have you ever played golf? I mean, I played some golf with a friend who was really into it. And golf is basically doing one thing, which takes 5 seconds, and then walking or riding your golf cart for half an hour and hanging out and chatting, and then doing another thing that takes 5 seconds. That's golf. You do golf to hang out outside with your friends. You don't do golf because golf is interesting.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
sad, actually.
No, I mean and there is some skill in it. I mean, it's like, in a way, it's like archery. Like you're doing a thing and trying to hit a target with something. Only with archery, you can shoot like 10 arrows every minute, 2 minutes. And with golf, you hit the ball and then you have to go to where the ball is, which is probably really far away.
Hopefully, if you're doing it well enough.
Yeah, exactly. K-Hud, good to see you. I don't know if I forgot anybody, but Colton also DNF'd around 200 pages. Yeah, I don't know. I found the writing very ordinary, which is an Australian slang for kind of garbage. And certainly the first half of the book is Lord of the Rings. Like beat for beat, it's Lord of the Rings. There's a small group of 4 people who are in an idyllic village, and things go wrong and they get chased by black riders out of their village, and so on and so forth. It's just like, I'm sure it veers off of that eventually.
Yeah, but even in first book, when we go beyond that halfway mark, it's much more than Lord of the Rings, actually.
Sure. I know that it develops away from Lord of the Rings. And
Yes,
I've watched some of the
Jimmy is
TV
right.
shows, so I
Golf
know
is
some
very
of the
difficult.
story at least. But
To go to
golf is insanely
completely-
difficult, apparently, and it infuriates
is.
me. Yeah, it is. It is quite difficult. It infuriated my friend because I'd never played golf, and I ended up being better than him, at least the day we played.
Poor guy.
And it was pure luck. I mean, I have zero, there's no reason for me to have any kind of golf skill. But anyway, Evie,
really quickly to go back to Legend, because this is sticking in my head and I can't. I need confirmation. K Fox put a comment saying that she watched the movie. The Tom Cruise Legend movie, is that based on the David Gemmell book?
It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it. They are completely separate things.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Entirely unrelated.
My brain was going to be broken there for a second.
They are both called Legend, but they don't have any, other than them both being fantasy, there is no overlap at all.
Got it.
Legend by Gemmell it's about Druss the Legend, who is like this legendary warrior who's pretty much known everywhere in the country he's in and in other countries, and he's old. I saw.
Okay.
Kathy, do it. I mean, I can send you the link, but it's also in the...
No, she's here. She put it in the chat, so she should be in the backstage.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. The backstage on this thing drives me nuts.
Hello.
Hey, Kath, how you going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Good to see you.
How's everyone?
Good.
Doing all right.
Good.
What are you reading?
Arguing
Kathy?
with my uncle about sports ball, but I'm having a good time.
I'm reading Wintersmith.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Terry Pratchett.
Pratchett.
Pratchett Sisters.
Wintersmith is in the Witches series.
It is the Tiffany Aching series. I'm up to, this is my 30th Pratchett, so I'm trying to finish the series. Yeah.
Are you doing publication order then?
I was, but I decided for the end I'm just going to read the Aching books first, and then I'll finish off with the rest. Because these are young adult, so not for everyone. And I thought maybe I won't like them, but I'm actually really enjoying them. Yeah, they're really good.
Thanks.
More importantly, Kath, how's Malazan going?
Oh my God. I am such a massive fan. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I just finished the 5th book, which is Midnight Tides. And, well, thank you so much to everyone in the chat. But, yeah, it is so... I mean, I'm a big fan of Wheel of Time, so I had to bite my lip as you guys were complaining about it, but... honestly,
mostly just me, and I haven't actually read beyond 250 pages.
Well,
although Evie also DNF'd before I did. So
and I will also just say that really quickly, the complaints that you're all like, well, Matt, that you were saying like, oh, it gets good. You got to read so many books and then it gets good. That sounds very familiar for Malazan. So just saying.
The first book in Malazan is awesome. There are better books in Malazan, but the first book is awesome. So I will not tell anybody it gets good after X, because it's good from the start.
See, I think Wheel of Time is good from the start as well, but I think it's for everyone because it's a different kind of story to Malazan anyway. And I call it Malazan, and I know that's wrong, but that's just what I hear in my head. But yeah, this is my first time streaming, so I'm a little nervous. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that too.
We're all friends here. I also, the first time I read it in complete seclusion. I wasn't a booktuber. I wasn't watching BookTube. I'd never talked to anyone about the series. And I read it during the pandemic, like all of the books in 3-4 months, which was maybe a bad idea. But I also had Malazan in my head. And then I saw an interview with Steven Erikson. He said Malazan, and I was like, it's an adjective referring to Malaz. Yeah. Of course it's Malazan. And since then it's just been Malazan in my head, but I don't diss anyone for pronouncing it
I
completely
really
wrong.
think Erikson really cared all that much.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
That's what I've heard as well. And I don't know about you guys, but when I read fantasy, I make up the names in my head. And once I've got it stuck in my head, it's really hard to shake it off and realize, well, actually, that's the wrong way to pronounce something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's all made up. There isn't really a wrong way.
Yeah.
Malazan's the only one that stuck in my head because I was like, okay, now that I understand that it's an adjective, pronouncing it Malazan would be like pronouncing it Australian, you know, because it's the same kind of adjective, but everybody has their own pronunciations. Like you start going through the characters and there are a lot of weird names in Malazan, and I hear some people pronouncing things and I'm like, who are you talking about? Oh, okay, I get it. Just because we pronounce it completely different.
Yeah.
That is not House of Open Wounds in the thumbnail, Aslan. That is City of Last Chances. But I have House of Open Wounds, thanks to Sam, who sent it to me. And I will read it next. And I will probably not read anything in between because I'm really enjoying it. It's very, very good.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's an interesting structure. It's not 100% consistent, but mostly what it does is each chapter is about a different character, and the end of the previous chapter leads to that character. And then the next chapter starts with that character, and the end of their chapter leads to another character. And it feels like this weird sort of circling or spiraling kind of structure. It's cool. Pete, don't make me kick you. Do not make me kick you. Aslan, I am finding City of Last Chance. I just said basically it's awesome so far, and I'm only 100 pages in, and I'm just like, ooh, what's happening? What's going to happen next? What's up with the forest? What's up with the There's a lot of really, really cool stuff. So yeah, no, it's awesome. Also, yeah, I would 17-year-old boys reading Malazan. Okay. Challenging for a 17-year-old, I would think, but smart kids, I guess.
I think it's challenging for some people. It's not suited to every reader, I don't think.
No.
It's a complex series.
Evie read Dune, she was like 13, so
15, but that's okay.
I read Dune when I was 13, 14 as well. Twice back to back, I think. I was just super into it. I loved it. But
have you read the whole series?
I've read what I consider the whole series, which is the first 4 books.
Yeah.
I've heard from some people that like 5 and 6 are okay, but
it definitely sets up a new arc that remains unfinished because of Herbert's passing, and I refuse to read the bull crap that Brian Herbert wrote.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't really like the first Dune book, so
I was feeling like I have to kick somebody tonight, so it may as well be you, Britton.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm mixed on it. All right, I'll placate you, Matt. I'm mixed on Dune.
Okay, I won't kick you. I'll just mute you. How about that?
I like the second one. I really like Messiah. I know a lot of people.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. I feel like I've been on this island in a remote, like on a hill on this remote island by myself, and now I have someone else.
Oh, I know that feeling. I'm the only one who likes something in whatever it is, but it was just such a good take on what it's like to actually have power.
Yeah.
Going from a hero to someone who's actually given power and what that can do to someone who,
maybe this is not the right time to say I DNF'd Dune Messiah.
Anita, I thought we were friends. We're over. We're done.
No,
even book 1, I'm not a big fan. I mean, as much as you guys, I was like pretty okay with it. I don't understand what's the hype about it actually.
It's like when a bit of a non sequitur, but I'm referring to some comments. It's kind of like when
you a non sequitur.
I know, shocking.
How could that happen?
But
so unlike you, Britton.
I know. I'm not having a great week, man. Just let me have this. But anyway,
so go ahead with your non sequitur.
It's like when Bookborn calls Tyrion Tyrion in some of her videos. I'm like, it's Tyrion. It's like the god of war in Norse. It's Tyrion. But it's very small.
Thornall learned from Brian how to pronounce Hyperion, and he unfortunately learned it completely wrong because Brian was trolling everyone.
Do you see Brian's new video where he's talking about his role models and it's like the McDonald's purple guy and it's Prince?
They're both purple.
I know.
Brian apparently likes purple. I actually texted him when I saw that video about where he mentions Hyperion. Rick Thunder actually mentions Hyperion, and then he didn't get into it that much. And I was like, I wrote Brian and I was like, isn't Hyperion one of your favorite books? He was like, yes, of course it is. I was like, okay, yeah. I shouldn't take Rick Thunder seriously. Yeah.
It's like influencer Alan.
Uh-oh. Pete's gone all caps.
That betrayal happened like 3 years back, and you still chose to be my friend, so it's not on me.
Neith is victim blaming.
It's your own fault, Pete. Now, this is a hot take. Thornall's favorite sci-fi for a long time was God Emperor of Dune. I also read that when I was 14, and I was mostly just confused. I was like, what happened to my Dune books?
I remember really liking God Emperor of Dune, and Pete, you hear this? I really need to reread God Emperor of Dune because I only read it once, and that was in high school. So I really want to re-experience it and see if I still love it. But so far, like on the rereads since I've reread it, the series, Dune Messiah is my favorite. But each of them are, I think,
possibly for me too. Yeah, I reread them last year before, and I've been slowly collecting the folio editions. They've only made 3 so far. I'm waiting for God Emperor, and the rest I'm not worried about. But I'm curious.
But it's really nice.
Darko and someone else asked this. Yeah, Pete asked this. Like, what changed, Darko?
Darko looks like your teen self know much better than your current self.
You're stirring the pot, Anita.
That's what Anita
remember
does.
when you said you were going to be nice and kind and not be chaotic?
This is me being nice.
Often. He actually thinks he unironically thinks Percy Jackson is better than Harry Potter. So I don't take his opinions as seriously as some people might.
Wait, Pete, I thought you finished God Emperor Dune.
Apparently not. I mean, his comment certainly sounds like he hasn't.
Anissa DNF Dune Messiah on one side, and on the other side I got Pete DNF and God Emperor Dune. Why do I hang out with you people?
This is what happens when you DNF my favorite series, that is LPQ.
I'll reread Dune with you, Evie. First 4 books. I mean,
Nice.
I haven't read more than the 2, actually, because I thought Children of Dune is about new characters. So I've kind of been putting it off. But I do.
I mean, it's still like this is why I'll read the first 4 and I won't read 5 and 6. Is the first 4 are about the Atreides family and about the God thing that develops and the religion and the jihad and all of that. And 5 and 6 are, I think, set far in the future from the 4th book and totally different. Like,
yeah,
they have a lot to do with the Bene Gesserit and stuff like that. And it's totally different books.
I've got the 6. I was told to read all
You
of
shove
it.
it, Pete. You're wrong.
Who's wrong?
Wow, we've got some really hot takes on Dune.
Yeah.
Ron is wrong.
Yeah.
There are so many wrong people in the chat. I could go crazy kicking people today.
I'm gonna rage quit.
Yeah, I might too. Just shut the pub down. All these Dune haters here. Anita should probably be kicked.
I never said I hate Dune, did I?
No, you just DNF'd the best book in the series.
Or even if you don't consider it the best book in the series, she DNF'd
It's a good
my
book.
favorite book in the series. So it's a personal attack
Yeah.
on myself and personhood.
Yep.
For mocking
Good.
Daniel Abraham's prologue spelling.
I still need to. I mean, I didn't DNF anything, but I still need to finish LPQ as well.
Yes.
Um,
You liked first book, so
I
you
did
have
like the
right
first book,
opinion. Yeah.
and you are now finishing the final architecture, so I should probably finish LPQ. It's only fair.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Matt, you've only read the first book of LPQ?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was. Joanna and I were doing a read along, and we read the first book together, pretty much synchronously, and then I had some dramatic mood problems and just sort of stopped reading for a while. And when I came back to it, I wasn't feeling LPQ-ish.
I'm going
and
to
did other things.
I'm going to volunteer you and Brian in the chat. Y'all should buddy read. What's the second book? Betrayal in Winter? Betrayal in
Yes.
Winter?
I'm down for that. I'm
And
totally down for that.
are you going to join the TV?
I haven't even read the first book, Anitha.
You can catch up. You have to start somewhere. You promised me that you will read LPQ.
I
The
promise the
Purple
internet.
People Eaters are playing today. For
Speaking of non sequiturs,
uh,
what the
I
fuck
have
are you
to-
talking about?
oh, I was referring to Brian's comment.
Ah, okay.
You know, but going back to, I see this comment here from Pete. I keep starting Disco Elysium and then I get stuck. I try to reason with this like big guy. He won't be reasoned with. Then I try to punch him out, and then he's like, "No."
There's a number of points that are tricky in Disco Elysium. For anyone who doesn't know, Disco Elysium is a genius video game. It's like an isometric view, which is beautifully drawn of this city town.
Oh yeah,
sort of thing that
animation
you're in,
beautiful. Look,
and you're
well.
playing basically an alcoholic drug addict cop. And Belltube's into it. Pete's into it. I started a third playthrough recently. It's a genius game. It's so well written. It's weird as fuck, but it's so well written.
The City in the City is a video game, basically.
Kind of.
But then
Yeah.
again, I haven't gotten very far, so don't quote me on that. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it.
Sam, that's a hot take. A lot of people on BookTube will not like, but I kind of agree with you. I was very lukewarm on Malice. And even though I had bought the rest of the series, I was like, I don't feel motivated to continue right now. I was unimpressed with Malice. I wouldn't say horrible
I don't know
myself,
if I have,
but yeah.
I don't know if I have that many hot takes.
Suddenly, chat turned into unpopular opinions thing.
Apparently.
I don't know if
Sorry. Sorry. I was just saying I haven't read The Faith and the Fallen, but I've got the whole series as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love it. Don't let me put you off. A lot of people really, really love it.
Yeah.
And you may be one of those people. I am not.
From
I mean, I've heard it gets better as well. Like Malice was his very first book.
Yeah, and from everything that I've heard about it, it's more of the more classic fantasy style. So
it's very classic tropey. It's sort of farm boy that loses everything, found family, prophesied hero, prophesied villain. The villain's meant to be a surprise, but it's really obvious from the beginning. I don't know. And it's woven in with all sorts of like old Norse mythology, Celtic mythology. There are giants in it, and the giants have a magical cauldron that they're trying to get, and all this sort of stuff. It's got a lot of ingredients that I normally would like, and it's got really, really very well written fight scenes, battles and duels and stuff like that.
Yeah, not a selling point for me. I don't think many
Something
women.
like
And we don't always love it's not that I mind a battle scene, but it's not a critical element for me. I'm going to try it one day, probably next year, actually, including LPQ. That's on my list to read next year.
LPQ, I mean, I've only read the first book, so I can't talk about the whole series, but just from the first book, I was like, this is the most kick-ass magic. Like, not kick-ass like spectacular fireworks, but original and creative magic that I've seen in a fantasy book.
Wow.
It's really, really, really interesting. Yeah.
I definitely have to read
Okay, Thornell, I'm with you. I DNF'd the first book of Three Body Problem about halfway through because it was boring as hell.
A lot of my hot takes are like for books like not a lot of people read. Like I'm just like, I hate Bitch Planet, and people are like, what the fuck is that?
It
I'm
doesn't
like,
count as a hot take if no one cares about it.
That too. Most of my hot takes are more like I wanted to like this book more than I did. Like Sinlin Ascends, for instance. Like I liked it. I thought it was a good book, but I didn't love it like I hoped I would. Does that make sense? I guess it's not really a hot take because I still like it.
This is a hot take. Darko, why do you say that Hyperion is the worst sci-fi in the world? My favorite sci-fi book ever. We're gonna have words, man.
As I mentioned to him in the chat, I found his one singular flaw.
Yeah, he's otherwise a perfect man.
True.
But yeah, man.
Thinking of reading is
Actually, I'm interested. Is it a race thing? Maybe.
What?
Well, because I have zero. I'm not capable of having the perspective of a black man. And Dan Simmons, I never noticed it myself, but people have said that a lot of Dan Simmons' writing was foreshadowing the fact that he went off the deep end and became a right-wing nutjob. Like at the time he was writing Hyperion, he hadn't said all of these inflammatory things, but in the last 5-10 years, he's a right-wing nutjob. So I'm curious. Because there are some race-related things in there. There's a Jewish character. I think he's sort of pseudo-Egyptian, black-ish character.
I always forget that Dan Simmons is a douchebag.
Yeah. Apparently, he's gone off the deep end.
Yeah, I'm not reading Flashback.
And a number of my Indian friends, for example, have also said that Song of Kali is crazy racist.
I don't agree with that. I just read Song of Kali, actually.
I read it.
Yeah. I can see why they think that, but I think criticizing, or not even criticizing, but observations of the actual living conditions at the time, I don't think they're inherently racist. But
yeah, I mean, I've been to Mumbai and I've seen those living conditions, so it's not unrealistic, but I think there are a lot of different ways you can present it. I haven't read the book, so I don't know, but it seems controversial, at least.
Either way, Hyperion I think is great.
Literally the most boring sci-fi book I did not DNF. Wow.
I thought it was pretty good.
Damn, Darko.
It's no Martian Chronicles, but it was pretty good,
My kick meter is like almost at the top. I'm gonna have to kick somebody. Damn. DNF Hyperion and Three Body Problem within 10 pages. and now that's just stupid.
Well, actually, so that's a great point, Matt, and also everyone. But let's go around go round robin. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. What is the worst book that you didn't DNF that you probably should have?
The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. Absolutely despise that book.
Matt, what's yours?
I'm kind of a religious DNFer. Like I believe strongly in the power of the DNF, and
the Wizard's first rule. I
kind of have a rule. Like I'll give a thick book, or maybe it's like sort of a 20% rule. So I'll read 20% of a book. If at that point I am not into it, I don't care about the characters, I don't care what happens next, I feel like I'm wasting my time, I'll DNF it. So anything that I would call a worst book, I did DNF it. Like the worst book I didn't DNF, I don't know. I'd really have to think.
Here, Matt, let me ask you this. What's a book that you've read that made you like actively angry with how bad it was?
What's it called? In the Shadow of Their Dying by Fletcher and Anna Smith Spark.
So you're gonna get the special edition, right?
Of course. I got an arc of it. And I've talked about it before, like Anna Smith Sparks' bit where she was writing the internal monologue of a demon felt so bizarrely alien. I loved it. Everything Fletcher wrote was garbage. Was literally garbage. It was so bad. Like at about the 80% mark, a character says dude. And I was like, if you had established on page 5 that this is part of your fantasy world, I would have DNF'd back then, maybe, but at least it would be part of it. But in a book where almost the entire book, no one uses any modern terminology, and then all of a sudden someone says dude, and he set up all sorts of plot points that didn't resolve themselves. They dissolved. They just became irrelevant. Like, it was so bad. I DNF'd it 25 pages before the end.
Nice.
I was like, it's not even worth 25 pages to me anymore. I'm pissed off at this book. I'm throwing it away. It's garbage.
Anita, other than Claudius the God, what's the worst book you should have DNF'd but didn't?
Emperor's Blades.
The thing
Right.
that killed Alan's channel.
Yeah. I think Pete said the same. Oh my god, it was bad actually.
Did you know a woman can't sit on the unhewn throne?
I learned from that book actually.
But did you know? But you didn't know that, right? You didn't know that a woman couldn't sit on the unhewn throne? I DNF'd it at like 10 pages in, and I learned that very immediately, that a woman can't sit on the unhewn throne.
Okay.
You know that book actually. These guys are actually like caught by these are actually students. They're caught by the villains. Obviously, their life was threatened. They are supposed to be scary, but one girl was walking by, and this guy is drooling over her. I asked a friend of mine then, does that happen? He was like, he agreed. I was like, it
Like
was
in the midst of the action, they just stop.
not in the midst of action. They were caught, like tied down to a pole or something. So one beautiful woman was walking by. So instead of worrying about him and his friends, he was admiring her, that beauty of that girl actually, which I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me because I was more worried about them. So
Whoa. Evie just left.
what
Lost
happened?
Evie. You upset her. She left.
You pissed her off. Anita.
No,
She couldn't take it. She had to go.
well, it's interesting. It's either Wizard's First Rule or The Devil Takes You Home. I absolutely detest both of those books.
I actually liked Terry Goodkind. It was a lot of fun, very easy read. I know a lot of people hate him on YouTube, but I actually enjoyed it.
I haven't read anything by him, but everything I've ever heard about him, he's a dick.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
bad combination of bad
sounds
writer
like.
and pretentious
But-
douchebag.
I don't know anything about his writing really, so
Yes.
you know.
Well, when I read it, I didn't know that until I got onto YouTube, and then people were talking about what a dick he was, and I thought, yeah, he is, and he's arrogant. But I actually really enjoyed the books. They're not the best, but they're fun, easy read. Yeah.
Black
Okay.
Tongue Thief I didn't really
Evie's-
care for, but it wasn't like active hatred though. It was just really disappointing.
Evie's
Yeah.
computer crashed.
Oh, wow. Okay. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires is the worst book I've finished, I think. Colton.
I
That sounds like sometimes people just say a title of a book that I know nothing about, and I'm like, I will never even try and read that.
Yeah, is that by Grady Hendrix? That person
Yeah.
is the one who writes vampire-ish things or creepy books and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote How
Yeah.
to Sell a Haunted House as well, and a few
Yeah.
others. I haven't read him though. Yeah.
I agree with Matt. I won't pick that book based on the title itself.
Yeah, I don't know. I always think if the title of your book is obviously kind of a joke, then your book probably kind of is too. And I'm just not attracted to it. I don't know.
I actually have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying. I just haven't read it yet.
All right. Well,
Some
I'll
people
tell you
like-
how it is, Matt. What?
also, all I can say, and also Jerome, because he commented about Dan Brown earlier, if you read a Dan Brown book, it's your fault. You've done it to yourself.
You know, I did not mind. I read only 2 Dan Brown books. I did not mind Da Vinci Code because I'm also new to the religion. I mean, learning and that stuff and all. I found it very fascinating. But he lost me with the Lost Symbol. Actually, oh my God, he was going on and on about. I wasn't interested in any of the thrilling elements of that book.
I just have to save Aslan some time. The cover is 10 times more exciting than the book. I also like the
Sam,
cover.
you
I thought the cover was
read
actually pretty
Douglas
interesting,
Adams.
and I thought it was very well executed. It's got interesting typography. It's a really nice illustration. But man,
The films were really good though. I like the films, especially the first one, Da Vinci Code. Oh, sorry. I think I'm behind. I'm reading the chat as well, trying to keep up with the chat as well.
that's all right. No, I same was Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett. Most of the titles of their books, the title itself is not really much of a joke, and the ones that are very, very intelligent plays on words. But like the Southern blah 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 Guide to Slaying Vampires, it's just like a really flat kind of tongue-in-cheek title, and it just puts me off. I have read all of not all of Douglas Adams, but all of the Hitchhiker's books, and I'm working my way through City Watch. I got to Terry Pratchett really late because I had Piers Anthony trauma. Because I read all of the Zant books when I was a teenager, and that was humorous fantasy for me. And I was like, that was fun when I was a teenager, but they're pretty stupid now. So, but no. Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett are awesome.
Oh, damn it, Sam.
Real quickly, one, Emperor's Blades is so bad that it not only killed Alan's channel, but it killed my computer. Sorry. Two, catch me up. Kathy, did you share what you what the worst book is that you should have DNF'd?
She was
The guest-
simping for Terry Goodkind, but I don't remember
Yeah.
what the book was.
You don't mind. No, it was The Guest List by Lucy Foley,
Ah.
Murder, which they said is like, and then there were none, and that she is the next Agatha Christie, and I couldn't believe it. I almost threw that book across the whole room because I was so mad at her. Yeah, it was just terrible.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was very popular like few years ago. That's
rubbish. It's just rubbish. It's all about the relationships and not about a mystery, which is not what.
You
And
read
then-
mystery for.
Yeah. I didn't like it at all. But I know that on Goodreads it was voted like one of the best books, but not for me. I wish I had DNF'd that one. Yeah. But I don't DNF much anyway. Very, very rarely.
Embrace the DNF. I've saved myself so much time with bad books by DNFing.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I-
Kathy just has maybe Kathy, you just have a better like finger on the pulse of what you actually would like normally, and it was a fluke. So
No, not always. I make mistakes. I'm also willing to try different things. I tried A Court of Thorn and Roses, Sarah J. Maas, 10 pages. That was as much as I could take.
Darko has an interesting question. What books
Yeah.
did people like that everyone hates?
Probably the Hunger Games for me. I don't actually hate the Catching Fire was the only one that kind of pissed me off. Just
No, people don't hate Hunger Games though, right? They love.
It's one of the most popular series like
Yeah.
in the last 30 years.
well, a lot of people don't like
Written.
it though. But there's a lot of people who hate on it. I think it's fine. Like
I think it's kind of cool to hate on it because it's so popular because so many people
probably
love it.
that's probably true. Let me look.
Maybe
to be
that's
fair,
it.
that's also the same thing with Twilight. So
Jared.
hey, Jared.
Hello.
Plot twist: Jared and I are on other sides of the room because we basically
Yeah.
live in the same house.
Okay. So you got your monitors back to back. You just
Right
sitting
down the
across from each
street.
other.
Right down the street. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not
I
bad.
was listening to the DNF stuff, and
What's yours?
I had my first DNF this year. I did not finish American Psycho.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Ah.
Hard book to read.
It was
Huh.
tough. Yeah. Did
American
not like it.
Psycho might be one because I know a lot of people hate that book, but I think it's pretty good. Like it's not terrible.
American Psycho, right? Not Psycho itself.
The Bret Easton
American
Ellis.
Psycho.
Brett Ellis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did read
Ooh.
that. Actually, it's really hard to read. Yeah.
I
It's
read
tough.
it, but it was a struggle. I mean, it's not badly written. It's just like
No, he's
the
actually
subject
a good
matter
writer,
is
but I
difficult.
could not stand the story. I could not stand the characters. I could not stand a lot about it.
Yeah, which is kind of the point. But yeah, anyway,
is,
Anitha.
Sorry.
Anitha's making goalposts. So
I need to talk.
talk, Anitha.
I got so confused with the question. We are supposed to answer the books we love, everyone hates, right?
Yeah, but Jared
the-
joined and he was talking about the DNF stuff. Like he was
I'm
just-
so confused now. Okay, anyway, sorry. Go ahead. I
Yeah.
thought of the answer. The book I hate, everyone loves. Go ahead. Continue. I'm still thinking.
DK Moon. I actually like the Soldier Son books as well. So there. I quite enjoyed them.
Oh, okay.
Not nearly as much as anything in Realm of the Elderlings, but they're actually pretty good.
Ooh,
Yes, Rogue. A lot of people who are right hate Mark Lawrence's Broken Empire. Oh my god. That the first book of that felt like reading American Psycho to me. That's an exaggeration, but
Yeah.
the character was just so remarkably unlikable and stupid. And I just
and not
I-
intentionally so.
yeah, I think he was intentionally. I mean, he's clearly writing an anti-hero, right? It wasn't a mistake, but I just super didn't enjoy it. I DNF'd the first book.
I think it's very difficult to pull off when you're writing an intentionally anti-hero, when you want people to hate the character but continue with the story. I'm struggling with. I struggled a lot with Engineer Trilogy because it's all about the main character is an anti-hero. I did not like him from the beginning, but
Yanni's the
having-
best. Anita.
no, having read his other books, KJ Parker's other standalones like Folding Knife, Hammer, it helped me because I love his writing. Because of that, I stuck with it and I did enjoy the books. I did enjoy the way Parker structured the story, wove through all those twists and turns. But without reading his other books, I wonder if I would have continued, direct first book or something like that.
Same thing goes with like Colors in the Steel. If I hadn't have read his other stuff, I probably would have been like, "What? What's this? This is."
Peter's got a good point. Kenneth is a hateable character that keeps you reading. The thing that helps there is he's not the
The
only
only-
character you're following around. Like there are plenty of characters in Life Shift, so
But
it's
they're
not just
all
him.
varying degrees of unlikable.
That's true. That's true. None of them are really simply likable characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Thomas Covenant's not a likable character.
And
But-
Thomas Covenant's a series a lot of people don't get through.
But I absolutely love it. And
Yeah, me too.
I love that series, and so you can do it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just a character in American Psycho. It was more. There was just so much more. I don't like the that New York scene, and I don't like the fact that he had to list out the clothing of people for 3 paragraphs, and that's it. It was like I sped read through a lot of that part, and I kind of got it. I got the point that he was doing. I got what he was doing. I went to the end of the book just to make sure I got it. You know, I read the last couple of sections at the end of the book just to make sure I got it, and it just did. I didn't care. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
What was going to happen? You know.
I mean, the that New York scene and what clothes people are wearing is part of the point.
It is.
You know, like even more than being about a psychopath who kills people, it's a criticism of yuppies, capitalist culture, greed, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
It's also satirical. It's not meant to be taken completely seriously.
But it's also not necessarily fun.
But it's not fun. Exactly.
It's not enjoyable to read necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dirk Gently's a donkey. I like
that.
Dirk Gently. Okay, where do we go? How do
yeah,
we
he is a bit of a jerk. I'll give Ron that.
How about a sprint?
Yes, please.
How about we read a bit?
I don't think any of us answered Darko's question, by the way.
Oh, which
I do
question?
have one answer, Darko. Rainwell Chronicles. That mean, I loved those books. That is my second favorite sub-series in Realm of Elderlings, after just behind Farsi trilogy. That is also unpopular opinion. Farsi is my favorite, and my second favorite is Rainwell Chronicles.
I might say Thomas Covenant. I mean, it's been a long time since I read them, and I'm not sure if they hold up from when I read them originally. But I have very fond memories and very strong, very visual memories of the Thomas Covenant books. And a lot of people don't get past the first 50 pages, especially because of
it's too bad too.
A particular thing that happens in the first 50 pages.
I'm going to try it again, though. Next year. My intention is to retry it.
I think it's worth retrying. I mean, that particular thing that happens at the beginning, it's very, very relevant to the story. Of all 6 books. I mean, it's like, it's not a throwaway ugly scene in any way. It's like primary character motivation for 6 books basically comes from there and other things. But yeah. Anyway, let's do half an hour.
Till 35?
Yeah, let's say till 35.
I'm reading. I'll read The Dispossessed while we're waiting.
Hey!
I want to start that soon.
Going to continue Luther Strode.
It's very good.
Cool. So I am unlike I usually do, I'm going to turn my microphone and my camera off so I can eat my dinner. Everybody enjoy your reading. Please mute yourself if you're on screen.
Hello.
How was everyone's reading?
Pretty good.
What are you reading, Britton? Did you tell us?
I am reading Luther Strode.
You're still
which is,
reading Luther Strode, right?
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
So it's very much that kind of edgy 90s kind of. It's kind of a riff on those edgy 90s comics.
All right.
So
Cool.
but it's more like self-aware about what it is.
Okay. Let me turn off this banner and say hi, Tori.
Hey, Tori.
Join us on screen if you want, if you got time.
Victoria, how good to see you.
Yeah, man, this.
Tori officially hates you now, Britain, by the way,
Oh.
because you said Victoria.
Yeah, that's a great way to get on her bad side.
It's a beautiful name, but I'm sorry, Tori. Don't hate on me.
Anyways, apparently Anita, Ron, Daniel just weren't eating. Oh my god, I saw the eating vegetables. Just weren't reading. They were just talking about Wheel of Time. Anita.
One message. I posted one message in 30 minutes.
The slug is apparently good for your health. Only if you're a masochist, I think.
Somebody said it's like eating vegetables. That was a funny way to look at it, actually.
Fair enough, Tori.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Tori. I'm glad you don't hate me.
I will never get to the slug.
Kale's just like, fuck this.
There are so many books I want to read more, and I have so few years of life left that I will never read Wheel of Time. It's one of those things with getting a bit older. You start thinking, am I going to finish all these books ever?
Time.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Time sucks.
Kind of feel about Robin Hobb's Life Ship Traders. I'm still in the middle. I still cannot bring myself to finish it. And I think, should I, or should I just read something else?
Are you not enjoying it, or okay?
No.
Yeah,
No.
that
I mean, if you liked, I don't recall if you liked the
Farsi trilogy.
Farsi enough, you could just skip to Tawny Man if you're not enjoying Live Ship.
yeah.
I haven't.
Because Tawny Man is more of a continuation of.
I remember the first book many, many, many years, one of the few that Assassin's Apprentice.
Oh,
so I
okay.
thought I'd try Life Ship Traders instead. And the first book, I'm just not enjoying it. I love her world. The world building is wonderful, but I can't stand any of the characters. Yeah.
That is part of the point in a way in Live Ship. Like none of the characters are particularly lovable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did like few characters, but I understand problems with the life ships. I do have big problems with life ships, and it's completely all right, not reading that sub series or the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Betrayal after betrayal after betrayal.
We have to be nice and kind to other people too, Be kind, Evie. Be kind. Hey, Tori.
Thank you, everyone that writes in the private chat to tell me that they're waiting, because the way it displays it in Restream, I never notice. It's got a little tiny blue thing with a number in it, and the number goes from 6 to 7. And I can't see a preview or anything of Tori waiting. Hi, Tori.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Jerome, of course, hates the characters already. Yeah.
I haven't read Robin Hobb.
I mean, you're in good company, Kath, because Tori DNF'd the first book of Live Ships.
I finished it.
Oh,
I
you finished
DNF'd
it.
the trilogy.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. You DNF'd the trilogy, but you did force yourself through the first book.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
I did see your video on that actually, because I
Did you?
thought, oh, yeah, I'm really not liking this either. So it was nice to say I'm not the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it helps. I can say that Robin Hobb is a brilliant author. I just Live Ships was not for me.
Yeah, that's all right.
I haven't read Robin Hobb.
Yeah.
That somehow doesn't surprise me. We'll add it to the list of things that are wrong with you, Britton.
Well, okay, don't need to get personal, Matt.
I haven't read a lot of things, so
Yeah.
To
Easy.
the point earlier, there's only so much time, and got to read what really calls to you. So
I haven't read Black
What?
Doggy Red Giraffe or whatever it is that you like so much.
Black
So
Leopard Red.
Black leopard, red wolf, something like that.
It's black. It's black kitty, red doggy. Okay, if that helps you.
yeah, that I can remember that better.
We've all read a lot of stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff we all haven't read. So
There are so many things.
it's so much stuff.
There are
Yeah,
so
I mean,
many
I think
things.
Jared's better read in classic sci-fi than I am, so that's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
He's also got like
I
a
got,
few years on you, Britton.
Yeah, half a century or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the weird things with Legend for me, is like it's meant to be kind of a big classic fantasy book. And I had never, somehow I was reading fantasy from the late 70s constantly until now. And somehow I heard of David Gemmell year before last for the first time. And I was like, what? Exactly.
Yeah.
Jared and I were reading classic sci-fi when it was new.
Well, fantasy, maybe not sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I read Thomas Covenant when it came out.
Wow. Yeah.
Damn, wasn't that the 70s?
Late 70s. Yeah.
Late 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
I read The Wheel of Time when it came out.
Yeah. I mean, I
waited for
I
every
was-
single book to come out. Yeah.
I'm rereading the entire Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb right now because I read it as it was coming out, and
Yeah.
it was like waiting a year or two and then another book, and I've forgotten everything, and then
Yeah.
I forgot that they were coming out and didn't read the next trilogy for like 5 years or 8 years or whatever,
Yeah.
and then so
That's why the slog of Wheel of Time wasn't as bad for me, because I was waiting and waiting for
Yeah.
the next book,
Yeah.
So you get the next book and you're like, oh, cool, a new Wheel of Time book. So it wasn't as bad as, like, I know people who binge it, probably I could definitely see it for that. But
But
yeah,
it's also a very long series. And I think most really long series, you need breaks in between because you can get a bit tired of even a favorite series.
yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different experience when like all of the books are in front of you. You know, like I had never heard anyone ever say I only read finished series until like the last 5 or 10 years, because it wasn't a concept before. Like you read the stuff you loved, and there's only 2 books out and it's meant to be 6, and you just wait for the third one and the fourth one and so on.
Yeah.
It's just normal. But I think the George R.R. Martins and Patrick Rothfusses of the world have hurt people.
Well, do you think
And-
also part of that is the social media of it? Not saying that like, oh, because people are saying, oh, they're, not gonna finish the series, not gonna read it. It's just that people, I don't know, that we live in an online age. Like before the internet, I don't think people were really caring, really even knew.
Before the internet, we don't know what people did.
Yeah.
Yes, we do, because some of us were here before the internet. Hello.
Yeah. I think before the internet with books, it was whatever was available in your bookshops or in the library, and there was no discussion because other than people that
you only
knew.
talked about it with people you actually knew in real life, you know.
Yeah.
And reading science fiction and fantasy, for me anyway, that was almost nobody, you know.
Sam, even
Yeah.
now there are people who call Rhythm of War a slog. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Angela
Yeah.
from Literature Science Alliance literally called it a slog.
Yeah.
And she's a fan of Sanderson, and she reread it multiple times.
You know, it's kind of like with Jordan. I've never really been all that interested in trying Sanderson. Like maybe someday I will, but I've just never felt the itch. It's not like
Yeah.
Gormenghast or what's another fantasy I want to try? Well, we'll say Gormenghast. Gormenghast. I want to try that.
I find Sanderson is the slog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my favorite books of his aren't even the ones that everybody always talks about. So that's
Is it
part of it.
Legion, right?
Legion is really good, and then Emperor's Soul, which is a novella he wrote, is actually one of, I think probably those two are my top two. I do like Words of Radiance a lot, but yeah.
I might try Warbreaker. Is Warbreaker any good?
Depends on who you ask.
Exactly.
yeah.
That's a lot of books, though. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a very interesting magic system.
That's the
That's
thing,
very
though.
diplomatic
Like,
of you, Tori.
I don't care.
Thank you.
That's the thing, though. I don't really
Also,
care about
I
that.
will say, so Sanderson is kind of famous for not being great at writing romances of any kind ever, which is true. But Warbreaker has the one romance that I actually thought he did a really good job with.
I'll
also
have
not-
to agree
he's
with
al-
that.
He's also
I'll have
not
to
good at
agree.
writing books that are the length they should be. Like pretty much everything I've ever read by him, I'm like, well, that could have been 25% shorter. There's so much fluff in his books and just blah, 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 blah.
I was going to say, I don't think
Agree.
I've ever been on a live stream with Jared or Kathy. So hi, guys. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Tori, you too.
I've watched both of your channels.
Jody,
Yes.
nice to meet you too. You can say
Nice
that to
to-
me too.
Okay. It was really nice to meet you, Anitha.
Thank you. It's
I'll
not
go
difficult.
subscribe to your channel after this.
I was actually watching your live stream earlier today. The one that you were seeing. Yeah, I'm in the middle of it. Sometimes I don't have time to watch the whole thing, but I was really enjoying it. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, Kath is here for the first time. Jared's
Yeah.
been on the pub on and off a few times.
Oh,
But Kath is joining us from very early morning Australia.
yeah, it's like 10 to 8. Yeah, in the
Wow.
morning. Sure.
Yeah.
Way too late, even for me, but just worked out today.
You got me, Pete. I absolutely hate filler episodes. As soon as I'm watching a show and we get about 5 minutes into the episode and I'm like, oh, this is one of those we didn't write enough for this season and we're just cutting together flashbacks or whatever. And I despise those. It's such a waste of time. I'll actually usually skip those.
Or the random musical episode. Yeah.
If it fits, what show?
Buffy.
Yeah,
Did
Buffy
a
was in it.
Buffy. The Buffy musical episode is amazing.
It is. Yeah.
So, to be fair, I haven't watched Grey's Anatomy since whatever season it was that Katherine Heigl's last season was. Denny was last on. But apparently they had a musical episode. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
On Grey's Anatomy?
It kind of fits in Buffy, but because Buffy's just weird anyway. But Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut up, Pete.
I mean, if you actually listen to when the musical episode, the Buffy musical episode started, I was like, oh hell no, I'm not watching this. I hate
Same.
musical stuff. And then I started listening to the songs, and they
Yeah.
are so well written and so funny that I loved it. It's one of my favorite episodes. Pete is apparently a musical episode fan, all caps.
Well, for anyone that's in the chat or on stream that loves musical episodes, watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Literally, the entire show, every single episode is a musical episode.
Still need to see Buffy. Sorry, guys.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend lost me with the plot also. That's very inconsistent. Sometimes plot is so good, and sometimes the girl is so irritating. It's the most inconsistent show I ever watched in terms of writing.
To be fair, I haven't watched after season 2, I think. Yeah, it's season 2.
I've never heard
What's-
anyone talk about the writing of Grey's Anatomy.
What is remarkably good at the moment is the Penguin.
Oh, the
Oh,
Penguin is
outstanding.
And I
fantastic.
can totally imagine not watching it because you don't like watching superhero stuff, but it's got zero to do with superhero stuff. It's a friend of mine and I were talking recently, and we said it's the Andor. It is to the superhero universe, DC universe, what Andor is to the Star Wars universe. Andor has no Skywalkers, no lightsabers, no Force, no Jedi, no Darth Vader, and it's one of the it's the best.
It's even
Star
better
Wars.
than that. It's even better
Yeah.
than Andor. It's
Well,
outstanding.
I'm not saying it's good or bad compared to Andor.
Yeah.
Just Andor to the Star Wars universe is what Penguin is to the DC universe. It continues from the Batman, the movie,
Yeah.
but there is no Batman in it. Right? It's set in Gotham, but it's a gangster show, and it's so good.
It's very
Oh,
Sopranos like. Just
Yeah.
outstanding. Really well done.
Yeah,
I'm on a podcast about that show right now. It's just
Okay,
having a great time with talking with Steve from Steve on Books, and
right.
Might be
Yeah.
my favorite show of the year.
and
aside
it's so
from,
good.
Legend of
It's-
Vox Machina, maybe.
There were a couple of episodes where I watched them back to back, and I had to take a break. It's just too intense. It's just like it's
Episode
really, really
4
good.
is Emmy worthy by far.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Well, it was I think it was 4 and 5. I watched.
Yeah.
4 was a
I hadn't-
masterpiece,
Hadn't watched
I
it for a
thought.
bit, and I watched those back to back, and I was like, "Whoa, it's a bit much." And Colin Farrell.
Oh my God, he's incredible.
Every episode, I look at that guy, and I'm like, "That can't be Colin Farrell. Fuck off. That's not Colin Farrell." But it is.
And
Apparently.
flower. Yeah, I can't stand him, so it's really hard to watch him in anything.
He's
Morgan
You won't recognize him. He's so good.
He doesn't
Yeah.
sound like Colin Farrell. He doesn't have any Colin Farrell mannerisms, and he looks zero like Colin Farrell. It's a remarkable job of acting and also the makeup. It's really, really well done.
Yeah,
And it doesn't look like horrible makeup either. You know, like very often someone's in makeup and it's really obvious they're in a lot of makeup. But this looks like just a guy with scars, which is what he should look like.
The Penguin is one of the most interesting characters, I think, in Batman series anyway. He's got such a tragic backstory too.
Yeah. Although I think a lot of people, like when they think Penguin, they think Adam West Batman Penguin with the top hat and the and the
Or Danny DeVito.
Or Danny DeVito in the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, exactly. And this character, he's just a gangster. Like he's not any kind of weird supervillain. He's just a gangster who is ruthless, and it's a really good gangster show. That's all.
They
So it's
call him
cool.
Oswald Cobb instead of Cobblepot, which there were people who had a problem with it. I didn't really care. I'm like,
Cobblepot is kind of a silly name. So
yeah, and also he's like a New York guy. That name wouldn't make sense anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I was okay with it. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah. Being
Now, if you were
curious
like
about
English, that would make
adaptations.
sense. Like if you were British,
Maybe.
that
Yeah.
would possibly make sense. Like he
Yeah,
generally is in the
being-
comics.
Being a purist about those kind of details in adaptations is ridiculous.
I mean, I'm not. Gotham is freaking terrible. I mean, the Penguin in that show was pretty good. There were a couple of good aspects of that show, but I never really liked Gotham that much.
Mm-mm.
That was kind of also, and what the hell? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It said something went wrong. I'm like, oh god.
No, I think it's happened on my end. I think it's just a restream thing.
Restream sucks sometimes anyway.
Restream's pretty good. Brian Bell had a EV Mux thing the other night where everybody that was on screen, which was I think 9 people, couldn't see the chat update except for me.
No, I could see it too.
Oh, you could also see it. Okay.
Yeah.
I watched that one actually. Poor
Yeah.
Brian. Hard on him because he was trying to involve with chat as well, and he couldn't.
Sam, who is in Hamburg in Germany, I am watching it on WoW, which is a streaming service which is only German, and I got it only because that was the only place. I don't know how they got an exclusive license, but it was the only place that had House of the Dragon in Germany. And then it turned out they also had Penguin, so it was worth keeping it at least for a while.
I mean, one of the things I really like about Penguin is that they're not afraid to show that, like, Oz is a freaking terrible person, which I know, hot take, he's a gangster, but like
he's an anti-hero for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, not even that. He's a straight up villain. He's a straight up villain protagonist.
There was one of the recent episodes, like 2 episodes ago, it occurred to me. I mean, it's actually kind of obvious, but I just thought about it and went, "There's no one on the show who's a good person except for Victor." And Victor is probably becoming a bad person.
Yeah, he's gray.
Yeah, he's great, but he's basically a good kid, and everybody else is just horrible. Everybody's horrible. But it's so good.
Well, I do feel for Sophia though. I won't pretend she's a good person, but I do feel sorry for her.
She's had a hard life, and she's a horrible person.
Yeah, that it's like Tony Soprano. Bad life, bad guy. You know,
it's like Tori's favorite Malazan character. Yeah, Fellison's had a horrible life, and she's
not.
horrible
She's
person.
not my favorite character, but I have a lot to say about her.
Yeah, your most discussed character, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah,
she's an interesting character.
She is probably actually the most discussed character in the entire series. Really.
Yeah, she has a lot to say.
Among many others in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, Kalam is actually my favorite character.
Kalam is super badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love Fiddler. Yeah,
Fiddler's amazing too. Yeah,
Fiddler is definitely one of my favorites. I love Fiddler because Fiddler is so much the normal person,
everyday man.
Yeah, he's like the only normal person in the room so often, except when he's doing the cards. Then he's weird, but otherwise he's just like the normalest person in the room, and everybody else is a superhero. You know.
Yeah. He was amazing in House of Chains. I just loved him in that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting Gardens of the Moon next year, Matt. So got it.
I've got my brother reading it. Actually, he's on Dead House Gates. I can't wait for him to finish it. Yeah.
Casa fans. Witness.
Whiskey Jack's a pretty cool name, though. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say for right now.
Quick Ben all day. Yeah. I'm a super big fan of Quick Ben. I love the fact that I love that about Fiddler, that he is just this normal guy who is capable of somehow dealing with these superheroes all over the place. But Quick Ben being a more badass than pretty much everybody is also very cool.
I'm curious to see his take on Conan, because apparently he has an interesting riff on Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, he does that. Yeah.
Really quickly, because it made me think of it. Tori and Matt, how'd the Black Company buddy read go?
I'm not buddy reading with Tori anymore.
Oh,
I'm sick of saying, "Hey, let's read this awesome thing," and then she doesn't like it. Like, she's lucky we're still friends.
It was just like Fritz Leiber 2.0. Oh.
No,
it wasn't. It wasn't that.
No. So Fritz Leiber, I had like visceral anger at when I was reading the book because I hated it so much. No, Black Company is not. It's not a bad book. It's just I'm really struggling with the writing style and trying to figure out, like, I don't feel like it's immersive, for me at least. So I'm halfway through the book and I don't care.
If it helps, it is written like the annals, so it's going to be very cursory,
Right. Yeah.
and
Which is
not
fine.
going to go into depth.
I was, and I don't know if it's just like I could read it in 2 months and maybe it's fine, but right now I'm having a really hard time immersing. I know. I'm sorry, guys.
Shut up,
Yeah.
Pete. You haven't finished the series.
Corey,
You haven't-
Corey,
Shut up,
Corey
Pete.
ripped my heart out a lot, so it's all right, guys. I'm used to it at this point.
Have you?
Why?
I'm just curious. Have you, Tori, read any Hemingway?
No.
Okay, because Glenn Cook's writing, or at least Glenn Cook writing Croker, the analyst,
Sure.
reminds me a lot
I
of
love
Hemingway.
that part. Yeah, I think it's very cool that he's writing the first book from that perspective. I love that.
Yeah.
Which is weird because actually this is not the first Glenn Cook I've read. I started reading Heirs of Babylon a while ago.
Okay.
And I actually liked
I'm
that
right
one.
back.
I like that better than Black Company so far.
Okay.
So
I
I was more
just-
engaged by it.
I just read it, and I think I found it harder to get immersed in the actual story, but I really love the story, and I'm actually
Yeah.
going to continue it.
Cool.
It's not one that you become attached to the characters straight away. I think it would take time.
Mm.
I don't think it's a story where you think, well, these are some of my most beloved characters. They're not always very admirable. But that's the charm of it as well, is that you're reading about characters who sometimes do terrible things. So it's hard to admire them. But I like Glenn Cook's writing. And I think if you don't, it's much harder to get into the story.
Yeah, to Jeroen's point, and also to Aslan's question, what is even grimdark is a whole nother question.
Let's not start that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ever.
I will
Be there
just
all
say
day.
that the Black Company is incredibly dark.
Mhm.
And I think Glenn Cook's depiction, albeit in a fantasy world, of boots on the ground military, how they interact with each other, the horrifying and terrible things that occur between two soldiers around them with battles is really, really good. That he is able to explore military fantasy, but again, from that boots on the ground perspective. So the focus is not actually the battles, it is the impact on the soldiers. Is like Glenn Cook is, I know it's going to be sacrilege. Derry's somewhere screaming right now at me, but Glenn Cook is is no one can compare to Glenn Cook in his ability to write perspective and characters. Even for me, just for that first book, the depth and complexity of the characters around Croker, even from Croker's perspective, I thought was absolutely incredible. On the flip side, I love The Black Company as the first book. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, the first book reads different. Once you get to the second book and on, it's more consistent or whatever, more regular, whatever that means. But I loved it from the beginning.
And also, as far as grimdark, I mean, even though Glenn Cook doesn't call it grimdark himself,
Yeah.
I would call it probably the first grimdark series. You know, Elric has grimdarky bits, but it's.
I was about to say, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah,
about
but
that?
there's too much magic in Elric to really make it grimdark.
Fair
It's
enough.
got grimdark attitude, but it's not gritty, like on the street kind of gritty enough. He's a noble sorcerer, you know. But I've always thought of Black Company as like the first grimdark. Although nothing was labeled grimdark when it came out. But yeah. You were going to say something, Kath.
I was just saying that it's a short book, and yet you are still able to understand the characters in such a short book, which I think goes to show how skilled Glenn Cook is as a writer. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to read the next one this month sometime, I think.
Evie, have you ever read his other series, The Instrumentalities of the Night?
I have not. I was supposed to actually buddy read it with Joseph from Joseph Reed's books, and I was like, I can't. I don't have the time. Like, I'm already overwhelmed. And
That's
then
good stuff.
he
I had a
told
good time
me,
with that.
oh, okay. Alternatively, apparently Joseph is having a really, really hard time, so we wound up DNFing the series like after the first or second book. But I actually, the way that he talked about it, I'm actually really, really intrigued by it. So I'm debating if I want to do that one or Dread Empire as my next Glenn Cook series.
Yeah, I've only read the short story in Swords of Dark Magic for the Black Company stuff.
I think I heard Steven Erickson refer to Black Company as like Vietnam War fiction on peyote, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's the fantasy Vietnam War in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Glenn Cook is a veteran of Vietnam.
Yeah,
So
it reminded me a bit of Tim O'Brien.
And like, you know what I just
Yeah.
read? The Things They Carried, which was a fantastic book, by the way.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great book.
Yeah. See, hey, Matt, by the way, we both read that together and enjoyed that and had a great discussion about it. So
That's
not
true.
everything we read turns out this way.
Just everything else we've read.
Tori, I think Beck's comment is about your book.
I can't see the chat because it still says something's wrong with the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
She
really?
said, I
That's
love the
right.
first book. I love the first book in a supposed two-book series about werewolves. I can't wait for book 2.
Oh, phased. Yeah. Thanks, Bex.
Is there going to be a book 2?
Yes, there is.
Okay. I did not realize that.
Yep, it's a duology.
I haven't read it yet. You sent it to me, but you also immediately said, I don't think you'll like it. It's kind of YA. So I haven't been.
Well, if
focusing
it
on
helps, it's my version of YA, which is
going to be different.
yeah.
Coming back to Grimdark
No.
topic, Aslan, I agree with you. In Grimdark, actually, darkness comes from people where they do unexpected things which we don't expect humans to do to other people. While dark fantasy, yes, it comes from the world and the magic, usually from the antagonists.
Yeah, I think Black Company feels, to me at least, grimdark because like none of the characters are actually noble. You know, like the main characters that you're following around
Can
are
one really
not
be
good
noble
guys.
in war, though? That is the real question.
Yeah, I guess.
Hmm?
But it's like none of them are particularly good guys, you know. So it's not just the antagonist that's making the world dark. It's also these soldiers are pretty dark themselves, and it's kind of like, what if you take bad people and you put them up against something worse? And how do they deal with that? And how to maybe find their way towarding the right thing eventually, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also about how at least with Parker, I read how he made it seem that it is very common for people to behave in that way. Actually, he makes it look like that is
interesting.
normal thing, that is scary at the same time, very realistic.
Oh,
Everyone has the capacity for evil. So I guess we shouldn't expect our characters in books to just be one or the other. They should have both if you want well-rounded characters.
Yeah.
Yep.
oh yeah, I am
Is it
also
just
starting
me, or
Discworld next year.
Cool. Is it
You
just me, or is
were
everybody's
frozen.
connection slow?
You were
Yeah.
frozen for a bit, actually.
Yeah. I think it's my net is acting up, which it usually doesn't. I got fiber optic at some point earlier this year, and that helped a lot, but still slow. Have you read Black Company, Jared?
Not the main novels yet, no. It's on my
Okay.
list.
Just short stories.
just a short story from that Swords and Dark Magic.
Swords and Dark
collection,
Magic. Yeah, that's
which
actually
I love.
a good.
I love.
Yeah,
that
it's a good
collection.
short story. Yeah,
Really
yeah,
good.
yeah. And if you want to, because he's written a lot of Black Company short stories, and there's kind of a chronology, and if you want, you can slot the short stories in at exactly the right places, because the first book was actually written as 4 or 5 short stories separate of each other, and then they were put together and massaged, and then some was added to make a novel out of them, which is possibly part of the reason some people find it a bit disjointed.
I can kind of see that when I read it. Yeah, it did feel disconnected at times. I was like, hang on, we've jumped this time period.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
been
agree with you, Rogue.
that's been one of the things that I was having a hard time with when I say writing style. I enjoy like the banter, and I think the characters are interesting. The way that the plot line flows, I'm so lost. I have no idea what's happening. So I think I want to go back and I want to find some videos where people explain the first book, because I don't know if that would help. But I'm having a terrible
so it's
time
like the Gunslinger.
keeping it up.
It's a hard sell first book.
We could have a chat sometime, Tori, and I don't know. I'm certainly not the leading expert. You should probably talk to Joseph and get him on a chat.
Well, he recommended some videos for me too,
better.
so
Okay,
that'll help. But like,
Yeah.
I find Malazan 20 times easier to read than this.
That's interesting. Okay.
Wow.
I don't think I would ever feel inspired to do a Black Company explainer video myself, but with Malazan, I've done a few, but mostly as reaction to other people. Like the Siege of Pale, a lot of people were like, "Who's fighting who and why?" and someone's double crossing someone, but I don't like. And the puppet? What's up with the puppet? And so I did a video just about that chapter. But yeah, it's. I think a lot of that is with the Black Company. I think a lot of that is just the nature of how it was written. That it was originally not a novel, and there was a little connective tissue added, and I think some chapters added at the end, and it does read a bit disjointed in a way.
Well, there are sections where you finish up this storyline and then all of a sudden you're in a completely different place, and months have passed and events have occurred that you're kind of told like you already know. So it can be a bit confusing to figure out, well, what is actually going on?
Sounds like Malazan.
Not within one book, it doesn't.
No.
Malazan doesn't do that within one book. It does it between books,
Yeah.
like hardcore between books. Like, here's another book
The
with a
jumps
bunch
are,
of people
are
you've never heard of
slower
before.
and farther apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But within one book, like Gardens of the Moon is pretty much a
straightforward.
continuous story with no gaps, although it does jump characters. But chronologically, it's all in order with no gaps. Erickson and Cook are at a mutual admiration society, by the way. Yeah, I mean, Erickson has said many times that a lot of things were inspired by.
I can see that
Cook.
very heavily. Yeah.
I mean, the soldiers, the banter, it's all. It could be the Malazan army, although the what? Oh yeah, Thornall's comment. That is kind of what Gardens of the Moon is about, actually. Strangely.
Summary.
Yeah, kind of. Not exactly, but kind of. Yeah.
This is like those Mad Libs, like explaining a movie in a bad way, and we have to find the movie. This is like that. I would never be able to guess it's Malazan. Of course, I did not read it.
That might be why you couldn't guess what was Malazan.
But I mean, sometimes we are able to get some popular books based on descriptions.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the storylines.
Yep.
And there are numerous storylines in Gardens of the Moon. And the teenager bit doesn't happen until the next book. But yeah. All of that stuff is true, basically.
You know, that woman mage who wants to get fit, that somehow reminds me of Game of Thrones show. I mean, I only watched the show about what is that lady's name?
Starts with an M, I feel like.
Melisandre?
Melisandre. That one.
The red woman.
Except for
She's pretty fit.
Tattersail's actually cool.
Yeah, and Melisandre is pretty fit to start with. And Tattersail's kind of rounded, and that's what he means. Yeah.
So it's kind of sounding to me that that Black Company is kind of like Dark Tower, where the first book is kind of a hard sell to people.
Personally, I don't find it a hard sell. It is a little disjointed. I can understand that it doesn't flow that smoothly for some people, maybe.
I don't think it's a hard sell.
No.
It all depends on what you like in your books, and sometimes the first book isn't going to tell you everything. You're not going, well, you shouldn't expect to learn everything and figure out what the author's aiming for in a first book when you know there's a series.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think
sure.
some people won't like it.
And also, I was talking to a friend recently, and I told him I just reread the first book of The Black Company. And they were like, oh, yeah, what's it about? And I was like, well, do you like military fantasy? And they're like, no. I was like, well, do you like really well-written relationships? They're like, yeah, of course. I was like, okay, you might like it. Because it is military fantasy, but it's much more about the relationships between all of the soldiers than it is about going to war or big epic battles or strategy or any of that kind of stuff, you know?
One-eyed goblin, baby. One-eyed goblin.
Yeah. There's just a lot of really fun friendships and this very large sort of codified found family thing, and it's really, really good. I liked it.
So Tori, read it right next time, please. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Evie.
I'm trying, Evie. Like, so
I'm teasing, by the way.
I know. So you guys know that I'm a fast reader, right?
Yes.
It has taken me like a month and a half to get through 120 pages. So I'm trying.
maybe it demands to be read a little bit slower than your normal pace.
Or maybe Tori is allowed to DNF it. Don't get into slump. Tori, like me, if it is not speaking to you, it is not.
Yeah.
Evie is going to kill me tonight. This is third betrayal, third strike against me.
This is more like the 5th or 6th strike, Anita. What are you talking about?
I feel like I'm way less likely to DNF buddy reads because I don't want the person I'm buddy reading it with to I want to be able to talk about it. I would have DNF'd this if I was reading it on my own, but I'm trying to.
I mean, the buddy read was basically you and me, and I absolve you of this buddy read. If you really feel like you're struggling and suffering, then I would just drop it if you want to, and don't feel bad, because there are plenty of people like Evie that I can talk to about it.
This is Matt giving you your sock. You are Dobby.
Yeah. You're freed.
Exactly. You are now a free goblin. Yeah.
Dobby is an elf.
Or elf, yeah. Whatever. I mean,
difference, right?
who cares about Harry Potter anyway?
Hey, I like Harry
Here
Potter.
come all the comments. Yeah.
I spent 2 years reading Moby Dick. It just was so boring. It was so
Pretty boring.
I don't envy that task.
I had to read it in school, so I had a deadline. And I got to the episode, the chapter where it just goes off on, I forget what the technical term for it is, but the science of whales.
Yeah. Oh.
And just like a whole chapter,
Oh yeah,
And I
no,
was
it's
like,
boring. It's so.
if I gave a damn about whales, this would probably be super interesting, but I really don't. Oh my God.
I tried it 5 times and I gave up. That's another one I actually DNF'd.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
I just couldn't. It was so boring. There was just nothing to draw me in. And I tried it so often. I thought, why am I trying? Why am I doing this? I should just give up on it. It's hard to give up on books sometimes. You just think you need to finish it. You know, being a classic like Moby Dick or Black Company, whatever it is. But some books, they just, yeah.
Some
I'm
books are
lucky I read it
challenges.
in
We want to
school.
win
So
them.
I had a
Sorry?
deadline. I was going to be tested on it.
Yeah.
So I had to read it. And now I can say I've read Moby Dick. But yeah, man. Sorry, Anita, go ahead.
No, I was
And
just
then
saying some
Evie.
books are challenges we want to conquer, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
Moby Dick has a chapter about, getting waxed from, which also might be gay subtext, which, that there's that as well. And
All right, well,
Moby
that's
Dick.
for scholarly academics, but alternatively, I tried reading Titus Groan literally for 10 years. Like I would get a little bit of further ahead, then I would stop, I would set it down because life got in the way, whatever. It's very, for me, dense, and it's difficult to get through. And for 10 years, I would get a little bit further. I think the last time was up through chapter 7. And then this year I was like, no, dadgummit, I'm going to read this book.
Jerry.
It's going to be nothing. Hi, Derry.
Hello, everybody.
And I finally read it after 10 years. And
Wow.
and then I read the series. And it's one of
it
my
became
favorite
your
series.
favorite.
And you love it. Yeah.
So
I found out something kind of cool. Speaking of classics, so one of the things that I'm currently reading is Lord of the Flies by William Golding.
Which is a good classic.
Yeah, and that's been on my list for ages. So I went to see if there was an audiobook, and apparently the main audiobook on Audible is William Golding reading it, which
Oh,
has
wow.
been so cool to listen to him read it himself.
Wow.
So I've been enjoying that.
I just read that,
Did you?
actually. Yeah, just a few weeks ago.
Isn't
Cool.
that one of the weird things about books is that even when somebody hasn't said anything online, suddenly you find 5 or 6 people who have all read the same book in the same month.
Just all
Yeah.
synchronizes across the world somehow. Yeah.
Because we all
Lord of
share
the
a
Flies
collective
is-
brain cell.
Audiobooks, like one of my favorite authors who I never really talk about online is Paul Auster. And I will only listen to the audiobooks of his that he narrated because he's only done half or a third of his books. He's written, I don't know, 12 or 15 books or something. But I audiobooked one of his books, and he's this really laconic, laid back Brooklyn dude, or he's dead now, but he was. And listening to him read his own stuff in a totally flat voice. He doesn't act characters or any of that kind of, radio play kind of bullshit. He just reads his book, and it's so suitable for his books that I can't imagine anyone narrating his books except him, and he will never narrate another one, unfortunately. He died last year. So
Oh, that's sad.
damn it. Yeah, it is. But I mean, we've got a hell of a lot of books left over. Left behind by him.
Lord of the Flies is one of those books like I like on paper, but it feels like it's trying too hard to be Heart of Darkness. I'm just like,
it probably was
Except
influenced by Heart of Darkness, to be fair.
oh, most
As
definitely it
someone
was.
As someone who's read neither of those things. So, but from everything
It's Heart of Darkness, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not so. I'd have to look it up, but I think it's maybe pre Heart of Darkness.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is
It's
it's likely the
older.
other way around.
Yeah.
No, wait, no, Lord of the Flies was after Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness was the early 1900s. Lord of the Flies was the 60s, right?
Oh.
Isn't Heart of Darkness?
54.
You know, I'm completely wrong.
1899 is Heart of Darkness, and 1954 is
Oh.
Lord of the Flies.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I thought.
I thought Heart of Darkness was far more recent than that.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Same.
That's crazy.
That probably speaks to how good it is.
Hmm.
Thinking about
Fantastic.
Apocalypse Now,
Exactly.
right?
That it's held up and you genuinely think it's far more recent than it is. That's
You know,
that's
but
talent.
I mean, kids getting violent, that's always. I mean, that's not fun, but
It's actually
it's a
something
choice.
I always think Stephen King does wonderfully well, is that he shows that kids aren't this pure and innocent thing, and anyone who's a parent knows this. Children are cruel.
Yeah.
You have to teach them empathy. You have to teach them kindness. And so, yeah, they can be some of the most outrageously horrible people on the planet before they've learned those things. But yeah.
Yeah, well, and also, like what I got out of Lord of the Flies is not even specifically children, but just people taken away from the constraints and the structure and the rules and everything of society.
Yeah.
Can revert into less pleasant people. See,
it's
Bye,
very.
Evie.
Goodbye, Evie. Yeah, it's very much that Hobbesian idea that if we don't have rules, we turn into animals, basically.
But
Or if we don't
society
have-
is what makes us civilized. That's one
Yeah.
of those sort of cyclic
It's not an
arguments
inherent
in
thing.
words. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's living with other people is what makes us civilized.
Is that a fact, Dornall, or are you
I know he
trolling?
likes it. I don't know if it's his favorite book.
I've never actually heard that, but I also know that you make jokes. So
I do actually think it is among the books I've heard him talk about before.
yeah.
So do I
I've got to
smell?
head off as well. So it was lovely.
Nice meeting you, Kathy.
Nice
Nice meeting you,
Kathy.
Kathy.
Nice to meet you.
See you, Kath.
Bye, Kathy.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Yeah,
And,
Brian,
I mean, to be fair, they do
don't
try
think
to
most
set
of
up
us
a
would
government.
survive very long.
No.
Like,
I
Depends on
haven't
how
read-
close you are to your inner beast.
Yeah.
No, I'll admit I'm quite fascinated by stories of human beings being kind of torn back to their like more base savage selves. So
The
I find
I
it
forget
charming
which-
that you think it's an effort because, people are surprisingly capable of cutting
it
off
doesn't-
empathy and just
doesn't
doing
take
what needs
much.
to be
The
done.
what was it, Stanford prison experiment?
Oh, that was
um,
horrific.
Yeah,
That was
absolutely
I think that's been
terrifying.
prison
disproven.
guard experiment. Yeah,
Yeah.
that prison guard experiment is horrifyingly frightening.
Yeah,
How fast people can become
yeah,
brutal.
yeah. Kind of scary.
Well, so much so they've not allowed anything even similar to it since, have they?
No. Like once the results came out from that experiment, it changed the rules
Yeah.
for like how you're allowed to do psychological experiments on humans. Yeah, that was going a little bit too far.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, people are capable of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I am also thinking I might drop. In which case, you're all dropping.
Seriously, do I smell?
No. It's just I've been doing this for
Arrive
2.5
and everybody
hours.
leaves?
It's 10:30 in the evening here.
No, fair. I didn't know I was late.
It's
So.
been running for 2.5 hours. Yeah, with the time change, you're now an hour
Yeah, it's later in the day for me. Which
further
makes
out.
It, yeah.
So yeah.
I've actually already got up and started doing stuff, which, then I'm sidetracked doing other things.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Cool. It's been great to have you all here. Thank you for joining, especially those of you like Anita who've never been here before, and Jared who hasn't
Welcome
been
to
here
the
in a
pub.
while, and
Nice to see you again.
Kath. Now that Kath's gone, but Kath joined for the first
I
time.
don't think I've been here while Tori's been here either. We've missed each other on
No,
live days.
Yeah.
Hi, Derry.
Hi. So
Good to see you all. Thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Pretty much all regulars, although the numbers were higher this time than they usually are because I actually posted it in a bunch of other Discords, which I haven't really ever done. So there's a bunch of lurkers probably who have not been commenting. Everybody in the comments is the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Good to see you all, whether you're looking or commenting.
and again,
Thanks
remember
for
if you're
having
commenting, you can join us.
Exactly.
Voice only if you
You can-
don't want to show your face.
You can join on screen with or without your face.
Yeah.
Anytime you like. It's been a pleasure. Have a lovely week. I
too,
hope you're
man.
reading awesome books this week, and see you next Sunday.
It's always fun.